Before we ever called ourselves tired, we called ourselves curious. Long before deadlines and phone screens, we asked different questions. Not what time is the meeting, but why am I here? Not did I reply to that email? But what does it mean to live well? Remember when a soap bubble seemed like a miracle? When a dog made you squeal with delight? When the stars felt like old friends, not distant specks? That spark of wonder gets buried under routine. But in rare moments, a child's laughter, a sudden pause, we glimpse it again. That is where philosophy begins. Not in dusty books, but in wonder, in stopping to ask, what if? This isn't a lecture, it's a rediscovery. Let's step into philosophy together. We imagine philosophers as bearded hermits, lost in books. But philosophy is in you right now. Every child starts as a philosopher. Before you had words, the world amazed you. A leaf, a dog, a crack in the sidewalk. Everything was wonder. As you grew, routine stole that sense of miracle, but it never vanished. It waits for the moment you look up at the stars and ask, who am I really? That is philosophy. Not a secret club, but the spark of asking why again. Centuries ago, thinkers stepped away from myths and started asking, what is the world made of? How do we know anything? What is a good life? They argued, debated, challenged each other. Not to hand down answers, but to wrestle with questions. Think of philosophy as a shared fire. Every time you pause to wonder, you add your spark to it. You don't need a degree, you just need to wonder and refuse to stop. Wonder is the start, but it doesn't end with amazement. Philosophy begins after the gasp, asking why the stars shine, what darkness means, or how we know anything at all. Ancient thinkers rejected easy stories of gods throwing lightning. They wanted reasons, not legends. Science has explained many mysteries, but philosophy still asks deeper ones. Why is there something rather than nothing? What is consciousness? Philosophers are like detectives who keep returning to the scene, never satisfied with simple explanations. They try to see reality clearly, to climb through everyday habits and catch a glimpse of something more. Wonder is the spark. Reason is the torch. Together, they light the path humans have followed for thousands of years. Philosophy doesn't live in proclamations, it lives in conversation. Socrates never wrote a word, but challenged others in the streets of Athens with questions. What is justice? What is courage? He didn't preach, he provoked. Plato captured those conversations, letting ideas clash and evolve. Throughout history, philosophers disagreed, debated, challenged each other. From Aristotle's focus on observation to Descartes' certainty of reason, to Hume's skeptical doubts. Philosophy grows through friction, not polite agreement. It stays alive by questioning, by refusing to settle. It asks, when did you last feel amazed? When did you last truly wonder? That is the heartbeat of philosophy, an endless living dialogue. As kids, we saw magic in soap bubbles and rainbows, but habit dims wonder. Philosophy is the art of waking up again, seeing the familiar with fresh eyes. Socrates showed us the power of a good question. Plato turned those questions into living stories. Through centuries, philosophy has stayed a conversation, not a dogma. It doesn't offer one answer, but a space to think together. So what if you looked again? What if surprise waited just beneath your daily routine? Philosophy promises, wonder isn't lost forever, it is waiting to be found. Imagine philosophy as a vast, living garden, each path leading deeper into the mysteries of existence and meaning. At its roots lies metaphysics, the ancient branch asking the most profound question of all, why is there something rather than nothing? What does it mean to exist? And could there be more than the merely physical? Perhaps a mind beyond the brain, or even a soul? Even as science uncovers the workings of the universe, that deeper why keeps philosophers awake at night. Next comes epistemology, the study of knowledge itself. It asks how we really know what we know. Are truths somehow inborn, or do we build them from experience? Think of Plato's allegory of the cave, with its dancing shadows, or Descartes' radical doubt, which stripped everything down to find a solid ground of certainty. Epistemology reminds us that knowledge is never guaranteed. It must be examined, tested, and justified. Then there is logic and language, the toolkit of clear thinking. Words can mislead us, and even perfect-seeming arguments can collapse. Aristotle's syllogisms laid the foundations of reason, while later philosophers like Wittgenstein revealed language shapes and sometimes traps our thoughts. Precision is not just a mathematical virtue. It is essential for seeing the world truthfully. Philosophy also asks personal and poetic questions through ethics and aesthetics. What does it mean to live a good life? How should we judge right from wrong or beauty from ugliness? Plato imagined ideal justice. Kant demanded moral laws that hold for everyone, while Nietzsche urged us to question every value and create our own. Here, philosophy becomes a guide to the art of living. From the individual, philosophy also looks outward to society. Political philosophy questions how we should organize our communities. Should the individual sacrifice for the greater good? Plato dreamed of philosopher kings, while Marx sounded the alarm about exploitation and demanded revolution. Their visions still echo in today's debates over freedom, power, and justice, reminding us that personal ethics and collective life are always connected. Finally, philosophy explores the questions of religion. Does God define morality, or is faith something deeper and more complex? Eastern and Western traditions meet here in fascinating ways. Buddhism, for example, may not center on a god at all, yet teaches a rigorous path of ethical living and facing suffering head-on. Meanwhile, Western thinkers wrestle with the idea of a divine command or the possibility of an immortal soul. Each of these branches offers its own lens on truth, beauty, and the human condition, and none of them hands you a final answer. They invite you to wander, to question, and to grow, keeping philosophy forever alive as a shared journey of thought. Philosophy isn't locked in libraries. It shapes our world, gave us the foundations of science, democracy, and human rights. It still shapes debates on AI, justice, and art. It reminds us, how we think shapes how we live. When you ask what is meaningful, or who deserves protection, you're practicing philosophy. Philosophy doesn't hand you the truth. It gives you the tools to keep seeking it. From wonder to reason, from conversation to questioning, philosophy is the living art of thinking for yourself. It reminds us, the world can still surprise us if we let it. So what question will you ask today? What moment of wonder will you let spark a new thought? If this journey inspired you, subscribe, comment with your own questions, and join the conversation, because philosophy belongs to all of us.